Welcome to Break Away from the Rat Race, a podcast series to awaken your entrepreneurial spirit and help you achieve financial freedom. On our show, you'll learn about investments and how to create passive income. Let's get started with your host, Eric Martel.
Well, thank you, Kyla. And today I want to kind of recap a little bit about our previous episode about changing, like breaking the mold or changing your mindset around basically being financially free. I also want to discuss kind of how are other people's becoming financially free, and we're going to kind of look at Forbes magazine around the number of billionaires that were created, how many there are in the world, and all of that. And then we're going to talk about why we are not on that same path, or maybe some of you are, but why are most people not on that same path? So let's recap. So we talked about employee, self-employed, and entrepreneur. And I think when we look at it, we can say a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm going to have my pension. Once I have my pension, I'm going to be financially free. And the way that I see it is that somebody that's financially free is not dependent really on the pension of a company. If a company goes bankrupt, if the stock market sometime a company goes bankrupt and then they can't pay your pension, it does happen. And so how are you going to handle that situation? If you're financially free, then technically, well, you know, the economy could still go bad, but at least you're more in control of what is happening, as opposed to if you're dependent on the pension from the government, from your employer. If you have a good pension plan, then you know you have a good chance, but you're not in control of how they invest the money, how they are taking risk with that money. So, and the self-employed, so both of these, I mean, as soon as you stop working, then you basically are losing your income. This is why it was important when the point that I was making in the previous episode was you need to change your mindset. You need to change your mindset to be more an entrepreneur. And this is why in this broadcast, when we talk about break away from the rat race, we want to awaken your entrepreneurial spirit, because this is kind of like where we need to be in order to be financially free. You will not be able to be financially free as an employee, even if you get your pension, or self-employed, even if you go and have a lot of money saved up in the bank. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a moment, and why that plan may or may not work the way that you think. Also, I mean, for me, one of the goals that's important to me is to leave a legacy, leave a company and the same stream of incomes that I've built to my children, and have them involved in the business, and also for their grandchildren, so that I'm leaving a legacy, not just passing inheritance, passing money to my children, but really passing a true legacy to my children and my grandchildren. So next is going to be around the industries that that produced most billionaires. So I looked at the Forbes magazine. So I think it's important to know, like, if I'm going to be, I want to be financially free, I want to understand kind of how did people get financially free? What did they do in order to be financially free? And of that list, I can tell you that none of them are full-time employees. And then how many billionaires are there in the world? So that's my next question. So according to Forbes, in 2018, there was 2,208 billionaires in the world. To me, that's a staggeringly low figure, considering how many people are on the planet. This is absolutely amazing. And I have a couple of ideas why, and but you know, this is kind of we'll leave that a little bit later. We'll talk also about kind of which industries these individuals created or are created their $1 billion. I know $1 billion is a little bit far away, and that's not my goal. I'm not planning to be a billionaire. I just want to be financially free, leave a legacy, something that's achievable. If I end up being a billionaire, well, so be it. But this is not my goal at the moment. So anyway, 2008, according to billions of people that are on this earth, to me, staggeringly low. And so the other thing too that I wanted to say is that 259 were new in 2000. There were new billionaires in 2018. And then the good news is that I'm a little bit cynical. I always assume that a lot of these people are, they basically inherited the money. But the good news is that the largest majority of these newcomers were self-made. So they had a company that they built or co-founded, etc., and then they achieved that goal. So this is good news for you and all of us, that in order to achieve that goal, you can do it. Most of the people did it by doing it themselves, by basically being entrepreneurs and building a company that would bring them to that level of wealth. Now, next thing is around the industries. So basically, this one is in 2016. So Forbes did a survey of 1,800 billionaires, and then kind of asked them or reviewed where they had made their wealth worldwide. So this is worldwide. And then when we look at it, so 200 out of 1,800 people, 267 billionaires did it in finance and investments. So that's 15% of the worldwide total. Others did it in the fashion and the retail, so 221. So retail, you think about, so for finance and investment, you think about all the brokerage company, all the banking, all these kinds of companies. So this is kind of where they are. Fashion and retail. So in retail, there's a lot of them in there. Amazon would be definitely one of them. So it could be online retail as well as fashion. And I think one of the fashion was actually Pronovius. I think was a company that makes wedding dresses. So they produce one of the largest companies of wedding dresses in the world. And you can make billions of dollars apparently doing making wedding dresses. So which is kind of a reminder, find your passion but work like an entrepreneur. Don't work on the business. Don't work in your business. Don't be an employee of your own company. And the number 3 is real estate, 163. Closely after that is technology, and then followed by manufacturing. So all these 3 are pretty close. So real estate, technology, manufacturing, about 9% of the worldwide total. And then you have other ones that are diversified. So they have a couple of different companies basically that are doing that. Food and beverage, 8%, 141 billionaires in that. The In-N-Out burger people are in there in the food and beverage. Healthcare, and energy. That I was very surprised that there was only 80 billionaires. This is worldwide, so I was thinking that a lot of these people, the billionaires, would be like the Saudi kings and all of that, and that they just struck, they just happened to be in an area that they had oil, and then they make $1 billion. So energy, so that's what only 4% of the billionaires worldwide were in that range. So I was a little bit surprised by that. And then media and entertainment. So this is the like the Oprah and movie magnates and stuff like that. So not magnets, but magnates. All right, so this is kind of where we are in this. So this just to show you a couple of points here. You can see that in all of these, when we look at finance and investments, so yes, you need a little bit more skills maybe to get into that spectrum of investment. Fashion and retail, retail, depends what your skill sets are. Real estate is a favorite of mine. And there's some skills necessary in that, but there's and we'll see that it's pretty, I'm going to spend a whole section and a few podcasts on the real estate side of it. Technology, again, some technology in manufacturing, often there's a lot of engineering and a lot of special skills that are needed. If you have these skills, I mean, this is great, and then you can look at that, and then we can discuss that as well. All right, but the key here, the other key is that the people that are in this list, they are not employees of the business. They have figured out a way, a passion of theirs, and they have led a group of people, and they have worked on the business, building and structuring the business so that it generates profit and money and cash flow. But they're not employees of the business. So this is why it's so important that we change our focus, that we change our mindset from an employee, self-employed, to an entrepreneurship kind of mentality. So this is what we have to do. And I think so. I mean, looking at the numbers of people, I mean, there's so few. 2,200 individuals only achieve that level. In the U.S., we keep talking about the top 5% of the population. These are wealthy people, but many of them are well below the $1 billion threshold. Anyway, so let's get to that. The other thing too is that so why aren't we there? Why aren't we part of that group of individual? And I think it's because of you have to make a deliberate effort to learn something outside of the education system. So I think this is the first attempt. If you study in anything, in engineering, if you studied like I studied in mathematics and actuarial science, I studied about investment. I studied about stochastic model. I studied about all kinds of things that related to probability, statistics, financial models, all of that. But not once did it tell me or explain kind of how to use that information to make me wealthy. The whole goal was really for me to prepare me to work full-time for an insurance company, or to work full-time for a consulting company or another company to do that. So that was the sole purpose of the education system. I had a great education system. I'm very happy that about it, but the education system has one purpose in my mind. Is again a little cynical view of mine, but it's about producing employees. You need to be aware of this, and then you need to step out of that bounds. I mean, you can definitely, I'm not saying don't go to college or anything like that. This is important, but be aware that this is an employee machine, an employee producing machine. This is what they do. And then the next thing is that then you want to go outside the box and then really figure out how you're going to make a living. Right? So even some of the entrepreneurial programs out there, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, they're missing some key skills about being an entrepreneur. They would tell you, for example, the different ways, all the different types of corporate organization, like an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, etc. But they will fail to tell you how do you structure your company, and give you real life examples of how you structure a company for this particular purpose, to minimize liability, to reduce taxes, etc. So it's a little bit too theoretical, I guess, is my point, instead of something a little bit more practical, and really observing kind of like how to do it, like learning the basics of it, and then applying it to a specific situation. And really, this is where you really understand what that knowledge is all about. So that's one aspect of it. So that's the education. The episode's going to be around real estate because it's probably To me, that's a good basis. Everybody understands that. And then we can kind of leverage that and talk about financial intelligence, and then move into other fields where the wealth has been created. So I hope this was helpful. Send me your comments, send me your messages, and then if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. So it was a pleasure, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Break Away from the Rat Race with your host, Eric Martel. If you want to share your story and experience with our listeners, please message us on Facebook at Break Away from the Rat Race. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on iTunes.